Father's distiller. There's methanol in there. It's sometimes used to clean up relics. The wash basin. 2 bottles of developer. The wash basin. Forbidden archaeologies, my favourite. Excellent research, very mysterious. Forbidden archaeologies, my favourite. Excellent research, very mysterious. I can't see it properly. There's some metal residue here. It's gold. There's some metal residue here. Antique muzzle-loader pistols. Pieces of broken vessels. The sheath of a dagger. That's a stiletto from the late Roman era. This dagger needs restoring. A curved dagger. I think Father brought it back with him from Turkey. These stilettos were found during the excavations in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City. These stilettos were found during the excavations in Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City. The sickle's from England. It could be a Celtic artefact, but we haven't been able to date it yet. I would have been surprised if it had worked like that. That's interesting. The notches in the bone were made by a sharp instrument. The sickle matches the notches to a T. Hey, didn't this edition mention something in connection with sacrificial rites in Britain? Let's see. Yes, here it is. An article about the Druids and their sacrificial rites. The latest findings indicate that in ancient England it was probable for the most... for their high ceremonies, the Celts usually prefer to use... Incredible. It all fits in with this bone. I'm sure the detective will be very interested. Mr. Halligan? I believe I've found something interesting about your bone.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, this bone was worked on...
With a sickle?
Yes, and probably with a sickle made of gold.
What makes you think that?
The bone bears notches matching the cutting form of a sickle to a T, and I found a trace of gold in one of the notches.
A golden sickle? Who would use a weapon like that in order to cut a human being to pieces?
That's what I asked myself as well. I found an interesting article which could help us. According to the historian Arthur Blake, The Britannic Druids carried out very bloody sacrificial rites. He found out that such rites took place at major celebrations of the Celts. He assumes that consecrated golden sickles were used for those rites.
And how does he know about these things?
He learned about it from old inscriptions he's translating at the moment. Interesting, huh?
Celts, Druids. Quite some time has passed since then, hasn't it?
Of course, but the descriptions in the article absolutely match the findings on your bone, Mr. Halligan. I'm sure the author of the article can help you.
What did you say this author's name was?
Blake. Arthur Blake.
Was there any mention in the article of how you could get in touch with the man?
I thought you'd ask that. His address was printed below the article. 366 Pinewood Road, Northampton.
What do you think? Could this Blake be right?
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to make money with horror stories about ancient Britain, but the bone you've shown me would match his theory quite well.
Have you ever seen anything similar in your career?
Oh, Mr. Halligan, you don't know the Aztec skull walls. If you'd seen those, you'd consider your bone harmless.
Maybe, but that was centuries ago. The victim of this murder was found this morning, and it was found in London. So you think this murder could be a ritual murder?
Yes, it would be possible. There are several occult sects and Satanists. They like checking their history books and adopting archaic rituals.
I'm going there now.
Mr. Halligan, I'm interested in this, particularly because of my job. I'd like to help you with your case. Would you take me with you?
Impossible. It's confidential police work. I have to see him on my own. I'm sorry.
I'm sure my knowledge would be to your advantage, Mr. Halligan, and I think it would be really interesting to work on a case like that.
Oh, well, when I think about it, perhaps that's not a bad idea at all. Perhaps there will be more examinations to be done. OK, Miss Turner, let's do it like this. I'll keep you informed on the case. If I hear anything new or if I need your help, I'll contact you. What do you think?
All right. I'll see you later then.
Yeah, see you later. And thank you, Miss Turner. This must be it. Pretty out of the way. Looks like he made this letterbox himself. Mr. Blake's vehicle really is a vintage car, that's for certain. Ah, it says Blake. This must be the place. Mr. Blake?
Yes?
My name's Brent Halligan. I'm a detective from Scotland Yard. I have a few questions I need to ask you.
Scotland Yard? What's this about? Is something wrong?
I'd rather we discuss this in private. Do you mind if I come in?
I'm not sure. What's happened? Is there a problem with one of my publications?
No, sir. I'm investigating a murder case. Perhaps you could help me? It really won't take very long.
Murder? Awful. But what's it got to do with me?
Mr. Blake, I'd really prefer it if we could go somewhere a little more private. May I come in?
Well, yes, certainly. Come on in.
Books. A lot of books. And they're almost all historical works. Books. A lot of books. And they're almost all historical works. That's a pretty good map of the world, considering how old it is. That's a pretty good map of the world, considering how old it is. An oil painting. It's not quite to my taste. An old pendulum clock with a Roman face. You're the author of a book on Druids, am I right?
Yes, quite correct. In fact, I'm just working on a revised version for the next edition. But what makes you so interested in my book?
I'm currently investigating a series of murders in London. I've made some interesting discoveries that I'd like to discuss with you.
What series of murders are we talking about?
The skeleton murders. You may have read about them in the papers.
Oh, yes. Of course. A terrible business.
Mr. Blake, I believe there may be some sort of ritual behind these murders.
Well, what makes you think that?
Dr. Turner from the Anthropological Museum in Oxford examined one of the last victim's bones for me. She found residual traces of gold on it and round notches.
Round notches, you say?
Yes. Does that mean anything to you? Doesn't your book on Druids mention ritual killings for which a golden sickle was used?
True. Are you saying these murders are based on the same ritual?
That's what I've come to ask you.
But that's impossible. It can't be true. My God. It would be unthinkable. It would confirm all my translations. I've been researching the history of the Druids for 30 years now, but I've never yet found proof of my greatest fears.
Your greatest fears?
Yes, the perfection of the final ritual, the final confirmation of the Druids' power.
What's this final ritual all about?
This is the text I wrote down during my travels through England and France. You know, when you travel through the country, you can feel that many locals still believe in the old Celtic customs. A group of farmers in the south of England let me copy the inscriptions on a megalith that stands in a field there. They claim that there used to be a huge Druid temple close to their house, but there's nothing left of it now. Whatever. I managed to translate the text, at least in part.
Okay, Mr. Blake, please come to the point. What does it say?
It says that the last of the Druids saw the fall of their priesthood coming in the year 1000 AD. In the confusion surrounding the final destruction of the order, a demonic superior Druid seized power, using his knowledge of Druid magic, not for the good of his people and to honor the gods, but to submit all of mankind to his rule. In order to secure the survival of the Druids' tradition, and to complete his devilish work, he organized a final ritual, transferring the knowledge and power of the last of the Druids to 5 infants. These infants have always been referred to as the inheritors.
Go on.
The inscription says that the ritual was not entirely completed. I've not yet been able to discover why. But from what I've learnt, the inheritors are strong and powerful enough to one day complete the ritual by themselves.
Right. But what have these murders got to do with the myth?
Well, that's just it, Mr. Halligan. I haven't told you the whole story yet.
There's more?
Yes. The inscriptions explain that the Druids' inheritors require the life force of other people to complete the ritual.
I see. And how do they do that?
According to legend, the flesh has to be cut off the bones of living humans and to be eaten. Only then can their life force be transferred.
You mean the victims of these skeleton murders were practically eaten alive by cannibals?
By Druids. Yes.
I don't believe it.
The worst is yet to come, Mr. Halligan.
What? What could possibly be worse than that?
If such skeletons have been found in London, bearing marks of a golden sickle, it can only mean one thing. The inheritors are preparing for the perfection of their final ritual.
Which means?
The myth says, once the ritual has been completed, the world will become a place governed by evil. Dark magic will be unleashed upon the world, and mankind will have but one choice: to obey or to die.
Great. And you really believe all that?
I believe it's possible. You know, Mr. Halligan, I'm not a superstitious man, but I've spent enough time studying Druidism to know that more goes on between heaven and earth than we can possibly imagine.
I quite agree.
You see, and the skeletons that have been found within the past few months fit in perfectly with the Druids' sacrificial rites. The day of the ritual's perfection is drawing near. Of that I'm certain. What we're looking at right now is just the beginning. Before we're through, more people will die, and the inheritors will soon be strong enough.
What can we do about it?
Time is running out, Mr. Halligan. You must find the inheritors and put them out of action.
That's an easy thing to say, but how can I?
There may be a way. During my latest research, I came across something very interesting. If the story I've heard is true, then there's a certain item that was extremely important for the ritual 1,000 years ago.
What is it?
A piece of jewelry mentioned in the old inscriptions. The Amulet of Transformation. You should try to gain possession of that amulet.
The Amulet of Transformation? What's its purpose?
I don't know, Mr. Halligan. Nobody does. All I do know is that the myth says it's important for the completion of the ritual. If you find the amulet, you may be able to prevent the ritual.
How did you find out about the amulet?
My work led to the discovery of a connection between the Druids of Gaul and Britain. It seems there was a small group of British Druids who fled to France when the ritual failed.
What for?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to save the amulet. I found out that a 13th century despotic French nobleman somehow gained possession of the amulet. I found a picture of him in an old archive.
Really? Let me see. Well, he doesn't look particularly friendly. Was he a druid?
Well, he must have had something to do with the Druids, but I really can't tell you how he gained possession of the amulet. However, he is the only clue that I can possibly give you as to the whereabouts of the amulet. I suggest that you make your way to Carmore. With any luck, you may find more clues leading to the amulet there.
All right, Mr. Blake. I'll get going immediately.
Take care of yourself, Mr. Halligan. Good luck. Well, what can I do for you? You can ask me anything you want.
Tell me, Mr. Blake, why are you in a wheelchair?
Oh, that's a sad story. I was attacked a few years back.
Attacked? Who by?
I don't know. It was after an autograph session for my first book about the Druids. A group of men were lying in wait for me and beat me up.
Why? Had you had a disagreement with someone?
No, not that I know of. They just beat me up. Without warning, and without saying a single word. Then they left me lying there, calm as anything. They just strolled away.
That's terrible. Who could they have been? Do you know what they looked like?
They were dressed all in black and wearing dark sunglasses. That's all I remember. It all happened so fast.
And you've been in a wheelchair ever since?
Yes. I can't drive anymore, and I find my work very strenuous. I'll be grateful if I ever manage to finish my new book.
I'd like to know more about the four elements.
The Druids regarded the four elements as the material of which the world is made. They invoked the elements and used them for their rituals. There were only three proper elements: air, water, and earth. Fire, the fourth element, existed solely for the purpose of transferring one of the three basic elements into another.
What do you mean?
Well, solids or liquids become gaseous through fire. Gas can be turned into liquid form with the help of fire. Take a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, for example. Fire, therefore, represents transformation, the transferal of one element into a new condition.
That sounds pretty complicated.
I suppose it does when you first hear it, but it's actually quite simple.
Yes, well, that's what my colleague Chris Hecker always tries to tell me whenever he starts lecturing me about chemistry.
Quite right, Mr. Halligan. I shouldn't bore you with such details.
Tell me more about the Druids.
Well, the Druids were Celtic priests. They were highly respected scholars, responsible for preserving the Celtic religion and science. Their main tasks included conducting sacrificial rituals, medicine, astronomy, and justice. Experts now believe that Druidism began in ancient Britain and spread from there to the European continent, especially to Gaul. The first definite evidence of the Druids' existence goes back to 500 BC.
That's a long time ago.
Quite. And for at least 500 years from then on, the Druids were the most important class of Celtic society.
What happened then?
Well, with Britain and Gaul being conquered by the Romans, the Druids were quickly suppressed. Their doctrine was abolished and replaced by Roman tenets. In the end, Christianity took over. And by around 1000 AD, Druidism seems to have vanished.
What did the Druids and their followers believe in?
Well, that's not so very easy to explain. Like the Romans and the Greeks, The Celts had a number of gods to whom various functions were ascribed. They paid homage to these gods with rituals and sacrifices. Many of their cult rituals were performed for the stars and the four elements: fire, water, air, and earth. Their religious acts always took place in forests, usually in a clearing or at some other prominent location. The Druids didn't start building their temples until they had met the Romans.
What were their rituals like?
Well, they mainly made sacrifices on special occasions. Druids would burn plants and twigs to transfer them into the realm of the divine.
That doesn't sound so terrible.
No, but they also sacrificed animals, mostly rams or pigs. Roman writers even mention cruel human sacrifices, crucifixions, decapitations, and regular slaughters on the altar.
What? Oh, that's horrific.
Not all of these stories are based on definite facts, Mr. Halligan.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. That's all for now.
You're welcome, Mr. Halligan. Good luck.
Hello, Captain.
Bonjour.
How are you?
All right.
You're not being very talkative.
No.
Oh, well, thanks for the conversation.
You're welcome.
Good day to you, monsieur.
Shush, 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 silence.
Are there many fish here? Have you caught anything?
When it is quiet enough, then I catch quite a few, so please speak quietly.
Why? Do fish have such good ears?
You bet. A single murmur and I'll have to sit here for an hour longer waiting for them.
Why are you fishing right here?
The ship's propellers whirl up a lot of plankton, which attracts the fish. Once the ferry has settled, I can often get a good catch.
Isn't this rather a noisy place for the fish?
Nah, the only time it's noisy is when the ferry's in. Other than that, it's really quiet. Unless, of course, people come up and bother me with too many questions, my friend.
What do you do with the fish?
Well, what do you think? I throw the little ones back in, and the big ones get eaten.
You eat these fish?
Of course. Why not?
Well, this water looks pretty murky to me.
No. This water is clean, and the fish are first class. Carmore used to be famous for its fishing industry, you know.
But they didn't fish with rods, did they?
Certainly not. There used to be a whole fleet of trawlers. But practically all the fishing businesses around here were forced to close down a while back.
I like your fishing rod. It's a beauty.
Yes, nice, isn't it? It's an enhanced fiberglass telescope ultralight 47, the latest model.
Could you give me one of your fish?
On a normal day, I would, but I just haven't been able to catch enough today.
How many fish have you caught?
Not a single one, my friend.
That's not a lot.
Yeah, precisely. I must try to catch some now, otherwise I will have nothing to offer this evening.
You're planning to sell the fish?
No. I have visitors coming this evening, you understand?
I see. I suppose there's nothing doing then.
Sorry. Why don't you just buy a fishing rod of your own and come and join me? Who knows? If you're nice and quiet, you may be lucky.
Do you mind if I hold your fishing rod for a while?
Sorry, my friend. It was very expensive. I spent 800 francs on it, and I'm not going to let anyone else touch it.
What are you planning to catch?
You may not believe me, but I've caught all kinds of things here. You know, I've caught pike 5 meters long, with eyes like plates and razor-sharp teeth. That's why I bought this rod. The last one was pulled clean out of my hands by one of those beasts.
Do you expect me to believe that?
Of course, it's the truth. I swear it. I even had some photos of one of those fish, but I'm afraid I lost them. They fell into the water. Right here.
And now there's not a shred of evidence to support your story. That is a pity.
Don't you believe me? Ask Capitaine Deneuve. He will confirm it. I often show him the fish that I catch.
Capitaine Deneuve? Who's that?
Oh, you don't know him? He captains the ferry that brought you here. He's over there, on board. He's experienced a lot and has been all over the place. He knows a lot of stories. Incredible stories.
Oh? Like what, for example?
You'll have to ask him that yourself. I never really listen properly when he starts spinning his yarns. He's bound to tell you a story or two. You just have to know how to deal with him.
How to deal with him? What do you mean?
Not so loud, please.
Because of the fish?
No, because of Capitaine Deneuve. He might hear us.
And?
Look, I'll tell you something. Deneuve's a bit strange. He insists on being addressed by his title. It's how do you call it? A peculiarity of his.
Oh? Why is that?
He's an old sea dog from a real old seafaring family. Some ancestor of his served in Napoleon's fleet. He himself used to go out to sea doing the real thing. Got a master's certificate and all that. Seen the world, so he says. These days he just captains the ferry. But he still insists on people using his title. He says his rank should still command people's respect.
Oh, well, if that's all, I don't mind. What do I have to call him, then?
Monsieur le Capitaine Charles Deneuve. That's his full title. He'll appreciate that.
Got it. Thanks for the hint. I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
Excuse me.
What?
You're Monsieur le Capitaine Charles Deneuve, aren't you?
Yes, that is correct, my boy. Charles Deneuve, Capitaine of the Merchant Navy of France. How do you know my name?
I've been talking to a friend of yours, the fisherman over there at the jetty.
Pierre? Ah, yes. Old Pierre. I expect he has been telling you about his pike, the one that was 5 meters long.
Yes, he did. Pierre says you're from Carmore, like he is. Is that true?
Yes, that's right. I grew up here. As a youngster, I wanted to be a fisherman and used to work on my father's trawler. Later, I went to Naval College to become a captain of the Merchant Navy of France. I have a small house at the end of the road, just behind Francois' Bistro.
You used to work for the Merchant Navy?
Yes. I have been to practically every single port all over the world, from New York to Zanzibar, from Rotterdam to Cape Town. I have sailed all known and unknown oceans, rivers, backwaters, lakes, and canals. I have seen things no other man on earth has ever seen.
Sounds exciting.
Yes. But all that was a long time ago. In a few years' time, I shall retire and begin working on my memoirs.
Your memoirs? That sounds interesting.
Oh, yes, my boy. I've seen a lot, you know. Disasters, storm tides, elements, mysteries.
Really? Won't you tell me more?
I have seen ships disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. I saw the Prince of Egypt sink. I witnessed the accident of the Pride of Paris in Cape Town Harbor.
You were in all those places?
Of course. And that's not all. I have seen tsunamis 40 meters high and octopuses with 16 tentacles.
I thought octopuses only had 8 tentacles.
Quite, my boy, quite. I have seen things a common landlubber, no offense, my boy, cannot even begin to imagine. Octopuses with twice the normal number of tentacles. What do you say to that?
Well, that's quite incredible. What do you know about the Castle of Carmore?
The castle. The castle is shrouded in greater mystery than the darkest secrets I have ever experienced or heard of.
That's saying something.
Precisely, my boy. After all, I have seen and heard more than most mortals could ever dream of. But none of it is as mysterious as the story of the Castle of Carmore and its evil owner.
Tell me more about the castle.
The castle of Carmoor was once the home of a good and righteous lord. Around 1000 A.D., the Druids came there. You've heard of the Druids, I take it?
Oh, yes. Quite a lot, in fact. Go on. Where did these Druids come from?
They were the last of the Druids from Britain.
Really?
Yes, really, my boy.
Do you know why they came to the castle?
They entrusted the Lord and his family with the safekeeping of something of great value to them.
What was it?
Nobody ever found out, my boy.
All right, what happened then?
The item remained in the family's possession for generations. But then the castle went to a descendant of the family who was not good and righteous, but cruel and mean. The evil lord of Carmoor.
Was that what he was called?
That's what he has been called for centuries. He was a tyrant and a murderer. He enjoyed killing and held satanic ceremonies at the castle. Villagers would disappear from Carmoor and never be seen again. They say he was executed during the Inquisition.
How do you know all this?
From age-old stories that people tell around here. Children heard them from their parents, who in turn had been told them by their own parents. They were handed down through the generations. Sometimes, people even come here from town. People like you, asking about the old stories. Writers, researchers, all sorts. We even had a real aristocrat here from England once. He was very interested in the castle.
Do you know his name?
No, I've forgotten. It was quite a while ago.
What did the man want?
He said he'd lost something out at the ruin. A necklace, a family heirloom. It seems to have been very important to him. The 5 of them spent days searching the ruins.
5?
Yes, there were 5 of them. They rented rooms above the bistro. 5 bigwigs in smart suits. One even had a uniform on.
Did they find the necklace?
No, I don't think so. They left after a couple of days.
Interesting. Thank you, Monsieur le Capitaine. You've been a great help.
You're welcome, my boy.
Excuse me, Pierre.
Yes? Now what?
I'd like to ask you something about Capitaine Deneuve.
Have you spoken to him?
Yes, I have. And you were right. He's a very strange man. I'd like to speak to you about fishing.
What would you like to know?
Are there many fish here? Have you caught anything?
When it is quiet enough, then I catch quite a few, so please speak quietly.
Why? Do fish have such good ears?
You bet. A single murmur and I'll have to sit here for an hour longer waiting for them.
I like your fishing rod. It's a beauty.
Yes, nice, isn't it? It's an enhanced fiberglass telescope ultralight 47, the latest model.
I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
Excuse me, Pierre.
Yes? Now what?
I'd like to ask you something about Capitaine Deneuve.
Have you spoken to him?
Yes, I have. And you were right. He's a very strange man. I'd like to speak to you about the castle of Carmoor.
I've told you all I know about him.
Have you ever heard of the Lord of the Castle of Carmoor?
Yes, of course. My parents used to tell me about him in order to scare me when I wouldn't go to bed. For the children of Carmoor, the Lord was a kind of bogeyman, you know. Our parents used to tell us horror stories about him.
What did they say?
That villagers used to vanish, that the Lord would catch and kill little children. They told me, "Pierre, sleep now, or the Lord will come and get you." I remember it as if it had been yesterday.
Have you ever been to the castle as an adult?
Yes, a couple of times. We needed stones for our new stable. But I don't mind telling you, I wasn't too happy out there.
Was the Lord such an evil character then?
Oh, yes. So I've heard. They say he murdered his entire family, not to mention half the household. He was a madman, but I don't remember many details of the old stories.
I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
I've got a few more questions concerning our last conversation.
All right. Ask me anything you like, my boy.
Pierre says you're from Carmore, like he is. Is that true?
Yes, that's right. I grew up here. As a youngster, I wanted to be a fisherman and used to work on my father's trawler. Later, I went to naval college to become a captain of the Merchant Navy of France. I have a small house at the end of the road, just behind Francois' Bistro.
Tell me more about Pierre.
I meet him almost every day. He doesn't have much to do these days, not since the fishing industry went down the drain.
So he's a fisherman, is he?
He used to have 3 trawlers and 5 employees. But nobody wants French fish anymore these days. They're too expensive. Now he spends his days sitting at the jetty, catching a few fish for himself and his friends to eat. They meet round at his place practically every evening and talk about old times, when they used to go out on their trawlers every day.
How long does he sit there fishing?
Until I come back with my last load of passengers. Since he's had that fishing rod, he sometimes sits there even longer. If I have time, we go over to Francois' place when I'm finished for the day.
Doesn't he have anything better to do?
No, not much. None of the villagers here has much to do, since business is so bad nowadays. Pierre has a small farm which supplies him with all he needs. A few years back, he built himself a small stable next to his house, where he keeps a few animals. His life is rather boring, really. That's why he's always pleased when I tell him a few stories.
Thank you, Monsieur le Capitaine. You've been a great help.
You're welcome, my boy.
Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
I've got a few more questions concerning our last conversation.
All right. Ask me anything you like, my boy.
Pierre says you're from Carmore, like he is. Is that true?
Yes, that's right. Later, I went to naval college. I have a small house at the end of the road, just behind Francois' Bistro.
You used to work for...
Yeah, I have sailed.
Sounds exciting.
But all that.
And now you...
Yes, that's right. Is there anything wrong with that? Don't you like talking to people who only captain ferries? It's an important job. People need ferries. Because it just so happens there's a lot of water between the islands and the continent. And somebody has to steer those ferries. But I don't suppose a landlubber like you would understand that.
I didn't mean to offend you, Captain.
That's Monsieur le Capitaine Charles Deneuve to you, my boy. You'd better get a bit dry behind the ears before you start talking to seasoned sailors. Got that?
Yes, sir.
I should think so, too.
Oh, well, thanks for the conversation.
You're welcome.
Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
excuse me, Pierre.
Yes? Now what?
I'd like to speak to you about the castle of Carmore.
I've told you all I know about it.
What do you know about the castle?
Not much. It's supposed to have belonged to a rich family around here many centuries ago. As a child, I used to play in the ruins with my friends, but it's not really safe to go walking around in the rubble.
Why is that?
It's in danger of collapsing, my friend. Anyway, it's pretty creepy out there, especially in the cemetery. There's not much left of the castle nowadays. Local farmers use the ruin as a quarry when they need stones for their houses. There's just a few bits of rubble left, that's all.
I have to go. Good luck with your fishing.
Thank you, thank you.
Some tufts of grass from the place where the bones were found. In a bag, for evidence. Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
I've got a few more questions concerning our last...
All right. Ask me anything you like, my boy.
That's salt. Excuse me, Pierre.
Yes? Now what?
I'd like to ask you something about Capitaine Deneuve.
Have you spoken to him?
Yes, I have. And you were right. He's a very strange man. Can you really believe everything he says?
Well, I'm not sure, quite honestly. He's a sailor, and they're always full of stories. 50 years at sea are a long time. Enough time to experience a great deal, and for a lot of things to become a bit muddled up in one's mind.
He certainly seems to say some strange things.
I don't think all his stories are true, but there's a core of truth in many of them. You'll have to make up your own mind which of his stories to believe.
Is he a friend of yours?
Friend? Well, I've seen him almost every day for a number of years. He captains the ferry, I do my fishing. When he's finished for the day, we sometimes go over to the bistro for a glass of pastis. Yes, now I come to think of it, I suppose we are friends.
And you get on well with each other? I should think it's pretty difficult being friends with a man like him.
Oh, we get on rather well, really. We don't talk much, you know. If anything, he does the talking, spins his yarns. The only thing about him that sometimes drives me crazy is his damned cat.
The captain has a cat.
Yes. He lets her out here on the jetty in the morning and takes her back in at night. And the damned beast spends all day slinking around here.
You don't like cats?
I hate cats. They steal the fish from my bucket or get tangled up in my fishing line. Deneuve's creature has often knocked my bucket of bait over, and I've had to go and get some more. I've told him hundreds of times to take the animal on the ferry with him, but he just won't do it.
Why does he only captain a small ferry nowadays?
He used to command a large merchant ship, but then he was dismissed. I think it was because he drank. He missed Cape Town harbour in the fog.
That could have happened to anyone, drink or no drink.
Yes, but it so happens that with him, it was drink. He was actually seeing double. In the fog, he saw the shadowy outlines of 2 bays and ordered his helmsman to set course for the one on the right.
And that was the wrong one?
Exactly. There was no right-hand bay. The port had 1 bay, not 2. But you'd better keep that to yourself. He gets pretty embarrassed if anyone mentions it.
I understand. Okay. Thank you for your assistance.
No problem. You're welcome.
Nothing's happening. Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
I've got a few more questions concerning our last conversation.
All right. Ask me anything you like, my boy.
I take it these drums contain fuel. Captain Deneuve's cat. A rather stubborn beast, and on top of that it has fleas as well.
There! Did you see that? Did you see that? It's that damn cat again. She's knocked all my bait in the water. That's the 3rd time this week.
Calm down. You can always get some new baits.
What about my fishing tackle? What about my telescope ultralight 47 for 800 francs? I can't leave it here unguarded. It could be stolen. I'll have to take everything with me, just because of that damned cat.
Don't worry, Pierre. I'll keep an eye on your things.
Would you?
Of course. No problem.
Thank you, my friend. Then I'll go right now.
That's Pierre's bucket. It's empty. I don't want that. This must be the castle, or rather what's left of it. Pretty creepy. It's locked.
A mausoleum. It seems to have worked. This must be the amulet. I found it. Monsieur le Capitaine,
What can I do for you?
when are you leaving for Portsmouth?
In 2 hours. Are you coming?
Yes.
Then come aboard.
My spare suit, just in case. Clothes and stuff. Clothes and stuff. That's my hold-all. It won't work like that. That won't get me any further. It won't work like that. No way. I can't do... I'd rather think about... It would have surprised me if it had worked like that. I'm not tired. It's empty. No, this doesn't look a very safe place to me. It won't work like that. That's futile as well. I'd rather think about it again. No, not a chance. This must be the ventilation shaft. I don't want that. That would be stupid.